here, especially on Intersex Awareness Day. 1 year ago tomorrow, I shared my first message with you. And each time I've been here, I've shared bits and pieces of my personal story and perspective as a member of the LGBTQIA+ community. Since it's Intersex Awareness Day, I'm going to spend a bit of time talking about intersex-related topics, trans topics as well, including my experience as an intersex and trans person. So let's dive right in. When we marginalize someone, we marginalize everyone like them. And in doing so, create hardships for others who do not fit perceived standards, and in some cases negatively affect even those who do. Transgender people have long been the canary in the coal mine, one that too many have ignored. Now we find ourselves in the midst of the systemic destruction of our economy, democracy, civil rights, social programs, and personal liberties, including bodily autonomy, free speech, and the right to due process. We watch as our leaders engage in ad hominem attacks, retaliatory investigations and lawsuits, crude remarks in social media posts, and tariffs on our allies that shutter businesses and raise prices for American consumers. We watch as billions of taxpayer dollars are diverted from public assistance programs to foreign countries and the super rich, while hateful rhetoric and outright lies spill from the White House on a daily basis. I know this doesn't sound like the least of these right now, does it? They tell us the world is becoming a safer place, yet our own military is currently deployed in large, influential, Democratic-leaning cities, and the White House itself is literally being torn apart, a visual manifestation of what's currently happening to the country we love. This hurts even more when you and your friends were the canaries, but nobody listened. Attacks that affect the vulnerable minority eventually ripple out to affect everyone. We can see that in real time as immigrants are thrown into camps, and threats of this happening to US citizens who oppose the president are now being heard from high-ranking officials. The playbook has become clear. Question a group's motives, call them degrading names, lie about their intentions, and once public opinion is changed, round them up. It's the same playbook they used in Europe in the 1930s. Before I share more, I want to be sure that everyone understands a few terms. A person's sex refers to their chromosomes, their genitals, and reproductive organs. Gender refers to a person's identity, expression, and societal expectations. Cis and trans are Latin. Cis means on the same side of, where trans means on the other side of, like transcontinental, moving from one side to the other. So a cisgender person is comfortable with their gender, whereas a transgender person may live on the other side of the binary from how they were raised. Non-binary people don't remain on one side of the perceived binary or the other, and may express themselves freely across the entire spectrum. There are about 40 different intersex conditions. Intersex people have chromosomes, genitals, and reproductive organs that don't always fit perfectly into a male-female sex binary. Their genitals might not match their reproductive organs, or they may have traits of both. These traits might be apparent at birth or may not appear until puberty or adulthood. Some traits are only discovered during a surgery, an internal imaging procedure, or a DNA test. Let me clarify a couple things. First, an intersex person can identify as transgender, but a trans person is not necessarily intersex, because intersex refers to the physical difference at birth, whereas gender is about how a person identifies. Second, I don't speak for all intersex and trans people. There's a saying, if you met one person from a given community, you met one person from that community. We may have similar circumstances and experience, but we're all unique people. Intersex people represent 1.7% of the population, roughly the same percentage as genetic redheads or twins. Worldwide, we're almost equal to the population of Russia. Intersex people are more common than natural blondes. Currently, there are over 5.5 million intersex people in America. It's actually 5,880,000 people. In 1981, my senior year in high school, there were at least 68 students and likely a staff member or two that had at least one intersex trait. I had a school of 4,000 in our school. That's just 1 year in my high school. Sports bills actually hurt more than just trans kids. Cisgender children have been insulted, attacked, and their genitalia called into question by rage-filled transphobic parents who publicly berate them based on their looks. Elementary school girls don't deserve this. Banning gender-affirming care can hurt and even result in the untimely death of intersex people, as well as cisgender people whose bodies don't produce the necessary hormones. Hormone blockers are considered safe and effective treatment for kids with precocious puberty, and nobody wants to see their daughter go through puberty at age 6. Grown men, my dad the other day, grown men are prescribed hormone blockers as an effective treatment for prostate cancer. Bathroom bills also hurt intersex people, cis women, and girls who don't appear feminine enough to someone else. Trans women who are perceived as just another woman are said to have passing privilege. In women's spaces, they're not questioned. Not everyone has this privilege, not even some cisgender women. With the advent of sports and bathroom bills came the inevitable backlash against women who do not pass the femininity test. Intersex people and cis women whose clothing, hair, and other style choices don't fit the stereotypical expectation for women are being harassed, threatened, and even assaulted by people whose fear of difference has been carefully built by those who wish to uphold the illusion of a strict binary. There are people who are comfortable presenting somewhere in the middle. Whether or not they're a part of the LGBTQIA+ community, how a person dresses or expresses their gender and sexuality, how they present themselves on a given day is up to them. Nobody's gender presentation should be enforced based on binary stereotypes. Trans men and women who have undergone hormone therapy and/or gender-confirming surgeries have been using the stall next to you since the 1930s. And we had no problem with it. Intersex people, along with cisgender women and children, are being hit by the shrapnel from all the political grenades being lobbed at the trans community. Biology is complicated and it doesn't always fit into the neat little boxes. Binary stereotypes tend to limit our understanding of human anatomy, behavior, and the environmental and biological processes that affect our mental, emotional, and physical development. Female XX and male XY are not the only chromosomal variants. XXY, XYY, XO, 0, etc. exist. There are men born with XX and women who have given birth, yet were born with XY chromosomes. Though giving birth is not the true measure of who is and isn't a woman. Not all intersex differences are related to genetics. Some are a result of conditions in utero or a combination of both genetic and environmental factors. My differences have a genetic component, but I was also affected by a synthetic estrogen called diethylstilbestrol. It's also known as DES. It affected the development and lives of many babies who are now adults. Some had it worse than me. Some got cancer and didn't survive their teens. Some, like me, had a mix of parts, while others were born with no reproductive organs at all. My mom miscarried twins between my brother and me, so her doctor prescribed shots of DES and pills to go along with it. It was also an ingredient in over-the-counter prenatal vitamins that my mom took. Basically, she was taking high doses of an synthetic estrogen while I was developing in her body. What could go wrong, right? Some will argue that what is listed on your birth certificate is unchangeable. They claim that the doctor decides who you are and that it may be as well set in stone. I can attest to the fact that sometimes they get it wrong. At age 3, I knew who I was, but was always too afraid to say anything. Throughout my life, I did my best to hide my difference, to blend in with the boys, but my body had different idea. When I came out to friends, it wasn't uncommon to hear, "Now it all makes sense." And when I transitioned, I heard a lot of people saying, "It's about time," a lot. I guess I didn't disguise it as well as I thought I did. When I started taking prescription estrogen, there was an almost immediate sense of calm and serenity. When I was given testosterone, it was the complete opposite. After a month on E, my spouse joked, "I like you now," because the change to my emotional state was unmistakable. Now I know what it's like to finally see myself in the mirror. I was born intersex, but assigned male at birth. Because I now live as a female, I also identify as trans. I just know that I finally feel comfortable with who I am. When I mention that I'm trans, people will treat me differently than when I say I'm intersex. In person, people can see that I'm trans, but not the circumstances of my birth. When I mention online that I'm intersex, even gender-critical trolls tend to give me a get-out-of-jail-free card. They say things like, "Since you're intersex, it's acceptable, but not for trans people." I don't like how that feels. It's dismissive of the whole trans experience. As an intersex person who knows what just gender dysphoria feels like, I can say I wouldn't wish that hell on anyone. At age 15, male puberty hadn't started. Instead, I was growing breasts again. The doctor and my mom agreed that they should put me on testosterone, and I fought hard, telling them I didn't want it. We went around and around for over an hour, during which the doctor tried to scare me, saying, "If you don't take this, next year you'll be walking down the beach with your girlfriend and you're gonna have bigger boobs than her." I responded with a blunt yet heartfelt, "I don't care." In the end, I lost the battle and they forced it on me. I grew from 4'11" to 5'7" over the summer. My knees, shins, shoulders, my bones all ached horribly, but my heart, my very being, cried out in pain for what had been lost. As an adult, I mustered up the courage to tell my mom that although I was a boy on the outside, I was a girl inside, that I was trans. Her response, "That's nice, honey, just don't tell your dad." She followed that up with, "You know, you'll never be pretty." When I was born, the doctor told my mom not to tell anyone, not me, my dad, nobody. I was in my early 30s when my spouse confronted mom about it, and she confirmed everything we had figured out, and then some. Due to imposter syndrome and perhaps some leftover trauma from my childhood, I was afraid to use the term intersex when describing myself. The suffering of others always seemed harder than my own struggle. It's that whole "the devil you know" idea. I didn't want to insult anybody by lumping myself in with them. Internalized shame is definitely a thing for many intersex people. I joined a local support group and shared what I knew about my differences and was told in no uncertain terms, "Oh, honey, you are definitely intersex." I felt seen. Even so, I still held on to my fear of being discovered as a fraud. That changed 2 weeks ago today, when an online troll demanded that I name my diagnosis. I have a laundry list of issues that I was born with and have discovered throughout my life, but I never saw my official diagnosis. Many years ago, I reached out to the hospital where I was born and was told that I cannot have a copy of my birth records because they're sealed, and my mom would need to request them. I didn't want to bother her, so I let it go. A couple of weeks ago, I went to a few reputable hospital websites and scientific journals to look up the issues I knew I was born with, and those I still have. When reading through one of the sites, I found that I was born with 4 of the 6 atypical differences listed. You can't have all of them. So yeah, pretty much that was me. Continuing through related pages, I quickly saw that my early childhood behavior, issues at puberty, and adult experiences all matched those of people with atypical sex development. It was like reading my life story, but written by somebody else. Written by a doctor. I reached out to the friend from my support group who had confirmed that I was intersex a couple years prior and talked her ear off for 40 minutes about how affirming it was for me to read. It was the ultimate confirmation for me, and I thanked her for accepting me before I fully accepted myself. She explained that she had been told that a lot of birth diagnoses and surgical records for intersex kids are kept under glass. They're at best difficult to access or get copies of. Even my frustration regarding the inaccessibility of my personal records is a normal struggle for intersex people at my age. I came to the realization that this is no longer about how anyone else sees me. It's about how I see myself. And I just got goosebumps saying that. Though the ladies in my support group have different intersex conditions, I learn a lot from and find commonality with them through our experiences. I appreciate their honesty, strength, and acceptance. They've helped me develop a healthy perspective and through that find healing. Like the troll that started me on this quest, a lot of people adhere to a strict binary interpretation of the book of Genesis, which they feel gives them the right to tell an intersex person which sex they are based on their chromosomes or which gametes, eggs or sperm, they produce. So what does the Bible say about intersex people? Let's take a trip down the rabbit hole. In early rabbinic literature, rabbis recognized no less than 8 gender designations, including Zakar and Nekeva, male and female, 4 intersex classifications, androgynous, both male and female traits, tum-tum, lacking any traits, Elenit Hama, which is a female that naturally develops into a male, and Saris Hama, which is the opposite, a male that naturally develops into a female. Well, there went the binary. Oh, there are 2 more. Elenit Anam, which is female to male with human intervention. And Saris Adam, which is male to female with human intervention. Okay, so they acknowledge trans people too, and eunuchs. But acknowledgement is not acceptance, right? Not only did the rabbis recognize 6 genders that were neither male nor female, they had a tradition that the first human being was both. In the book of Isaiah 56:4 and 5, it says, "For this is what the Lord says to the Saris who keep my Sabbaths, who choose what pleases me and hold fast to my covenant. To them I will give within my temple and its walls a memorial and a name better than sons and daughters. I will give them an everlasting name that will endure forever. The original Hebrew word Isaiah used was saris. This instance of the word actually used a qualifier in his, and that's la sarisim, to reference those who have had surgery. So it was more likely, it was changed into eunuch, which I can understand why in that case. What I see, though, is that God differentiated and spoke about those outside the binary. He gave us a special name and a memorial in his temple. If that is an acceptance, I don't know what is. Papias, the bishop of Hierapolis, from 60 to 130 CE, wrote that Matthew put together the oracles of the Lord in the Hebrew language, and each one interpreted them as best he could. A lot of people go off the Greek or the Aramaic now, but the original was Hebrew. The original word saris used in the Gospel of Matthew was the root. It basically would refer to saris, elenit, androgynous, and tum-tum, because in the same way that mankind is used for women and children, it would be used. It's a cover-all. Matthew 19:11 and 12 says, Jesus replied, "Not everyone can accept this word, but only those to whom it has been given. For there are saris who were born that way, intersex, and those who have been made so by others, trans. And there are those who choose to live life in this way for the sake of the kingdom of heaven," which is about celibacy, right? The one who can accept it should accept it. Jesus talked about intersex people, including those with ambiguous or altered genitalia, which includes trans people. He went off topic in the middle of something he didn't need to do to make his point about celibacy, yet he openly and without judgment acknowledged our existence. His blanket statement, accept them in all their incarnations. Merriam-Webster defines the word accept as to receive willingly, give admittance or approval to, regard as proper, normal, or inevitable, recognize as true, make a favorable response to, or agree to undertake a responsibility. Acceptance is trusting someone else's understanding and acting accordingly. It reminds me of the golden rule, to treat each other the way you want to be treated. Similar versions of the golden rule exist in pre-Islamic Arab ethics, ancient Egypt, in the Indian writings contained in the Mahabharata, and the Book of Aram, sorry if I mispronounced some of these, by Greek philosophers, including Plato, Isocrates, Epicurus, and others. It was also included in ancient Persian texts and the writings of Roman Stoic Seneca the Younger. The golden rule is found in almost every ethical and faith tradition, including Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Taoism, Wicca, and Baha'i faith. In Matthew 7:12, and again in 25:34 through 45, Jesus shared his version. In everything, do to others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law and the prophets. Years ago, someone told me about a greater rule. He referred to it as the platinum or diamond rule. Simply stated, it is treat others the way they want to be treated. In order to do that, we must first endeavor to understand them. In 2017, director Daniel Knudsen created a short video entitled "The Gift of Understanding." It changed the way I approach relationships. The gift of understanding is perhaps one of the greatest gifts one human can give to another. While this gift may cost no money, it remains one of the most difficult gifts for a person to give. While it is a gift of great value, it takes time, it takes thought, it takes empathy. To be understood is one of the greatest gifts one can receive. It is a rare gift because no one has walked the exact same path as another. No one sees the world from the exact same vantage point as another. No one has the exact same life experience as another. and no one has felt the exact same pain as another. We can only imagine and do our best to feel what others feel, and do our best to see what others see, and retrace the path that others travel. We are all different, but in our differences, we share a human experience. When our human experience intercepts another's personal experience, it creates an opportunity to find common ground. Though it may not be our first instinct, find the common ground if possible. The common ground is the only place one human can understand another. When one is understood, they experience one of the most fundamental human needs, the need to be understood. The gift of understanding is perhaps one of the greatest gifts one human can give to another. The thing is, our understanding is limited by our own perspective, based upon our own experiences and biases. These elements have a tendency to alter our view of a person or a situation. It made me realize that there's a gift greater than understanding. It's showing compassion and acceptance even when we don't understand the other person's truth or perspective. That is a gift that this congregation has bestowed on me. Goosebumps all over again. Caring for someone's needs can be as simple as taking the time to listen, making the effort to understand their situation and perspective, and respecting them enough to act accordingly to their understanding and not our own. It doesn't always take a lot to meet someone at their place of need. It does, however, require action. So where do we start? I think love is a good place to begin. A new command I give you: love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. It is my firm belief that having compassion toward and respecting the value of each human being, regardless of whether or not we understand or agree with them or their choices, is essential to creating a healthy society. Taking a stand and caring for the vulnerable and marginalized among us may help more than just them. In the end, it may save us all. Thank you for being here, for listening, for accepting me, and for endeavoring to understand. Thank you for the gift of love that you have given me today. It is one that I truly appreciate.